The case of Robert Roberson is putting a new spotlight on the death penalty. Roberson was convicted of killing his daughter based on a disputed diagnosis of shaken baby syndrome. Now, he was set to be executed last week until the Texas Supreme Court issued a stay at the last minute. New York Times bestselling author John Grisham testified about this case yesterday in Texas. He is calling for an end to the death penalty in this country, and he and Jim McCloskey, who founded Centurion Ministries to help free the innocent, are out with a new book. This book is so good. It's called Framed, Astonishing True Stories of Wrongful Convictions. So it focuses on 23 defendants caught in a web for something they did not do. This happens more than you think, people. John Grisham and Jim McCloskey join us now to discuss. I want to get into the book in just a second, but let's start with Robert. You say Robert Roberson, Robert Roberson.
Right.
I've heard it both ways. Because, you know, he could be in your book, John. He could be in your book almost.
We're saving him for the sequel. Just joking. It's a bad joke, but it's a
that was a bad joke.
It's a fascinating case that's still unfolding.
Yes, yes. But you testified in the case. You wrote an op-ed about it. Why?
Yeah. He's convicted and given the death penalty for a crime that never occurred. His daughter died of viral pneumonia when she was 2 years old. He was convicted of shaking her to death in Texas, using some outdated old science that was used and popular 20 and 30 years ago. And hundreds of people were convicted using the shaken baby syndrome. And a lot of them are still in jail. The truth is coming out. We're trying to get, he would be the first one executed though. So we're trying to save his life.
But you know, guys, in the book, you said you want readers to read this book and say, is this true? How does this happen? Mission accomplished, check. You want readers to go on a roller coaster ride. And that's exactly what it was. You had several stories, Jim. I want you to talk about one in particular, the janitor story, Clarence Brandley.
Yes.
Because what I learned in this book is that jurors find it hard to believe people confess to crimes they don't that they did not commit. Police are permitted to lie during interrogation. And every snitch is lying when they say, nope, there's no deal. I'm just here testifying because of something I heard.
Well, here's another thing to add to that, which there are many to add to that.
Yeah.
In the Clarence Brandley case, Clarence was the black supervisor of the janitors at Conroe High School, which is about 50 miles north of Houston. It's a large high school. A girls' volleyball team was visiting 1 week before school was to start. And unfortunately, one of those visiting girls, 16-year-old, was found strangled and raped in the loft above the auditorium. It was Clarence and one of his white janitors who discovered the body. Everybody was looking for where did she go? What happened to her? Don't ask me why. But the police said because he found the body and the fact that he's African-American, which we'll talk about.
He's the main suspect.
He's the only suspect.
The only suspect.
Now, the 3 days after the crime occurred, the Texas Ranger comes into play because they call the Texas Ranger, the expert, to come in and help solve the murder. His first day on the job, he consulted with the district attorney of Montgomery County about the case, about the murder. Then the very next day, he arrests Clarence Brandley for capital murder of the victim. No investigation had been done whatsoever. Bang, they're going to get this guy. Now, one other thing, if I may, when the police arrested Clarence, the Conroe police officer said to him, "You're the N-word, you're elected."
Yeah, that's a good tease for that particular case. But the thing about this book is that you say quite often police have tunnel vision, and they focus on the tunnel vision, and they don't deviate from that, even when evidence shows that they're wrong.
Well, they're under enormous pressure to solve the crime, to clear the case, to get the conviction. And that bleeds over into the prosecution because the prosecutors are under enormous pressure to get convictions. And once they zero in on a suspect, they ignore all contrary evidence. And there goes the tunnel vision. And bad police work and prosecutorial misconduct are true in all these cases. That's what leads to wrongful convictions.
I could never be a judge because I could never be 100% sure that I'm not convicting or sentencing the wrong person. So are there solutions here, Jim? I mean, how do we fix this system?
Well, here's one thing. We've done 2 Canadian cases. And in each case, and a number of other Canadian cases, once it's established that an innocent person has been wrongly convicted and exonerated, the local province then conducts a public inquiry to examine what went wrong in this case. They bring in both sides, they get files from the law enforcement, and they're brought in to testify under oath about what they did or did not do that resulted in this wrongful conviction. There have been 3,600 exonerations in the U.S. since 1989. In my understanding, there has not been one public inquiry about any single conviction.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
John, ProPublica and the New York Times are reportedly seeking changes to the attribution in the book. What is your response? Will you make future changes to additions moving forward?
No plans to do that. We relied heavily on the work of other people. You have to in nonfiction. Some great books that were written about these cases, some great investigative reporting, and we relied on that because it's great reporting. And we fully acknowledge it. The book has 8 pages of acknowledgments where we credit, we thank, we attribute. These are our sources. We name names. We say thank you. We use your stuff. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what they're upset about.
That was one of my favorite stories, too, without a motive. I mean, it was sometimes frustrating to read the book and find out that we don't find out who actually did the crime. I always wanted a solution, John, and sometimes there are no solutions.
Well, what happens, Gayle, these investigations get so botched from day one because of tunnel vision, because of bad hunches by the cops, because of pressure to solve. The investigations go off track, and years go by, and trying to find the real killer, it's hopeless. 20 years after Jim walks him out of prison, exonerated, the case is so cold you can't go back and solve it.
We got to go, but Jim, 70 exonerations is a big number. It's a heck of a job from your organizations.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
No, we thank you. John Grisham and Jim McCloskey. The book is called Framed. It's on sale now wherever you like to buy your books. Highly, highly, highly recommend.